Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the alien vessel, watching Earth slowly rotate below them through the massive viewing window. 3 months had passed since first contact with the Zephyrian Galactic Empire, and humanity was still trying to understand what it all meant. The aliens had arrived with ships bigger than cities, speaking perfect English and claiming they wanted peace. Dr. Lisa Morgan adjusted her tablet as she recorded everything she saw. The alien technology was beyond anything humans had imagined, with walls that seemed to glow from within and controls that responded to thought alone. She had been chosen as Earth's lead scientist for this historic meeting, and every detail mattered for the future of humanity. Colonel Sam Parker kept his hand near his sidearm, though he knew it would be useless against beings who could travel between stars. His job was to protect the diplomatic team, but he felt more like a tourist in a museum than a military advisor. The aliens had been nothing but polite during their 3-month stay in orbit. The Zephyrian ship was called the Great Unity, and it held representatives from dozens of alien species. High Chancellor Vextar had explained that the Galactic Empire contained 40,000 civilized worlds, all working together for peace and prosperity. Earth was being invited to join this great family of species. Jake looked around at his team of 50 diplomats, scientists, and military personnel. They were the best humanity had to offer, carefully chosen from every nation on Earth. Today was supposed to be the signing ceremony that would make Earth an official member of the galactic community. The ceremony hall was enormous, with a ceiling that showed real-time images of stars and planets from across the galaxy. Thousands of alien beings filled the space, representing species that looked like everything from giant insects to floating jellyfish. The diversity was overwhelming and beautiful. High Chancellor Vextar took the stage at the center of the hall. He was 12 feet tall with blue skin and 4 arms, wearing robes that shifted color as he moved. His voice carried clearly through translation devices that made him sound almost human. Today marks a historic moment, Vextar began, his words echoing through the vast space. We welcome a new species to our galactic family. The humans of Earth have shown great potential during our evaluation period. Lisa felt a chill at those words. Evaluation period? That was not how the aliens had described the last 3 months. They had called it a cultural exchange and preparation time for Earth's integration. Before we proceed with the integration ceremony, Vextar continued, we must share with all worlds the results of our assessment. This broadcast will reach every planet in our empire, as is tradition when a new species joins us. Jake noticed armed guards moving to positions around the human delegation. They had not been there moments before. Something was wrong, but it was too late to do anything about it. Massive screens appeared in the air around the ceremony hall, and Jake realized with growing horror that one showed Earth itself. Not just Earth, but every major city, every government building, every military base. The aliens had been watching everything. Citizens of the galaxy, Vextar's voice took on a different tone, colder and more commanding. We present the species known as humans for your judgment. During our 3-month evaluation, we have determined that this species poses a significant threat to galactic stability. The screens began showing images that made Jake's blood run cold. Human weapons, human wars, human violence throughout history. But the images were edited and presented to make humanity look like mindless savages who lived only for destruction. The humans have shown themselves to be aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerously creative in their methods of warfare, Vextar continued. They have developed nuclear weapons capable of destroying their own world, and they have used them against their own species. They cannot be trusted with the advanced technologies of the Empire. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm as armed aliens began surrounding the human delegation. The other alien species in the ceremony hall were watching with what could only be described as bloodthirsty anticipation. Therefore, Vextar raised all 4 of his arms. We must demonstrate to the galaxy what happens to species that threaten the peace and order of our empire. The human delegates will now serve as an example to their world and to any other primitive species that might consider resistance. The screens suddenly focused on Mars, showing the thriving colony that 10 billion humans called home. The red planet had been transformed over the last 50 years into humanity's greatest achievement, with massive cities under protective domes and terraforming stations that were slowly creating a breathable atmosphere. Jake tried to move, tried to shout, but found that he could not control his body. Some kind of paralysis field held all the humans motionless while allowing them to see and hear everything. Observe, Vextar commanded, and the aliens throughout the hall leaned forward with excitement. A weapon emerged from the bottom of the Great Unity, pointing toward Mars. It was sleek and silver, humming with energy that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Lisa recognized it as some kind of directed energy weapon, but the scale was beyond anything humans had imagined possible. The weapon fired, sending a beam of pure destruction toward Mars. The journey took only seconds, and then the screen showed the beam striking the planet's surface. The effect was immediate and horrific. The first city simply vanished, turned to vapor in an instant. Then the beam swept across the planet's surface like a brush painting destruction. Every dome cracked and shattered, every building melted like ice and fire. Every living thing died in moments too brief to comprehend. 10 billion human voices screamed at once, and then there was silence. Mars itself began to crack, the planet's surface turning to molten glass under the continued assault. The terraforming stations exploded in chain reactions that lit up the planet like a star. Within 10 minutes, humanity's greatest colony was gone, leaving nothing but a glowing ball of destruction where a world had been. On Earth, every television, every radio, every computer screen showed the same images. Humanity watched their brothers and sisters die, watched their dreams of the stars burn away, watched their future disappear in fire and death. This is the fate of all species that threaten the galactic order, Vextar announced to his audience of trillions. The humans of Earth will now surrender completely, or they will share the fate of their colony. They have one day to decide. Jake felt tears streaming down his face as he watched the screen switch to show Earth's leaders in emergency sessions. President Helen Carter was speaking to the nation, her face pale with shock and grief. The aliens had not just destroyed Mars, they had broken humanity's spirit, or so they thought. As the ceremony hall erupted in cheers from the alien audience, as Vextar ordered the execution of the human delegates to complete his demonstration, Jake saw something in President Carter's eyes on the screen. It was not surrender or despair. It was rage, pure and burning, the kind of rage that had driven humans to survive ice ages and plagues and wars. The kind of rage that had pushed them to the stars in the first place. The last thing Jake saw before the energy blade ended his life was President Carter speaking 2 words that the aliens would soon learn to fear: Blackstone Protocol. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, emergency lights bathed the Blackstone facility in red as President Helen Carter's authorization. Codes activated systems that had waited decades for this moment. Dr. Ryan Blake ran through corridors carved from solid rock, his security badge opening blast doors that had not moved in 20 years. The facility stretched for miles underground, a hidden city built to prepare for humanity's worst nightmare. Katie Wells was already at her workstation when Ryan arrived in the main laboratory. She had been working on the alien technology samples for 8 years, ever since the military brought her pieces of crashed ships that officially did not exist. Now her research would either save humanity or prove completely useless against an enemy that could destroy planets. The laboratory looked like something from a science fiction movie, filled with alien artifacts floating in energy fields and strange machines that hummed with power. Most of the technology came from ships that had crashed on Earth over the past 70 years, but some pieces were even older, recovered from sites that suggested aliens had been visiting Earth for centuries. Admiral Chris Stone stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching his officers prepare for a battle they had practiced thousands of times but never expected to fight. The hidden base on the far side of the moon housed Earth's greatest secret, a fleet of 12 warships built using technology that combined human engineering with alien science. The ships looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels orbiting Earth. They were angular and brutal, designed for one purpose only. Each ship was armed with weapons that no galactic species had ever encountered, because they were based on purely human concepts of warfare that the rest of the galaxy had abandoned. Millions of years ago, Captain Amy Foster received her orders through encrypted channels as she moved through the underground tunnels beneath New York City. Her resistance cell was one of hundreds around the world, all waiting for this moment. They had weapons that looked primitive compared to alien technology, but appearances could be deadly. The biological weapons were Katie's greatest achievement. After years of studying alien tissue samples, she had discovered that every species in the galaxy shared certain genetic markers. They had all evolved from worlds with similar conditions, breathing similar atmospheres, fighting similar diseases. This standardization was their greatest weakness. Earth was different. Life on Earth had evolved in isolation, creating a biological diversity that was unique in the galaxy. Humans carried bacteria and viruses that had never existed anywhere else, and these microorganisms were completely unknown to alien immune systems. Ryan checked the readouts on his computer screens as the facility's automated systems began producing the first batches of biological weapons. The viruses were modified versions of common Earth diseases, harmless to humans but deadly to any alien biology. They would spread through the air, through water, through any contact with Earth's environment. The Zephyrian ships began landing in major cities around the world as their ultimatum deadline approached. They expected humanity to surrender immediately after witnessing the destruction of Mars. Their soldiers wore advanced armor and carried energy, weapons that could cut through any human-made material. What they did not expect was the air itself to become their enemy. Amy watched through her scope as the first alien patrol moved through Central Park. The soldiers were confident, walking in formation without bothering to check for threats. They had conquered thousands of worlds using the same tactics, and they saw no reason why Earth should be different. She activated the biological dispersal device hidden in her backpack. It released a cloud of microscopic organisms into the air, so small that neither humans nor aliens could see them. The cloud spread on the wind, covering the entire patrol in seconds. The aliens did not notice anything at first. The organisms needed time to penetrate their armor and begin attacking their immune systems. Amy settled in to wait, knowing that patience was humanity's greatest weapon in this war. Admiral Stone gave the order to begin Phase 1 of Operation Alien Extinction. His ships powered up their engines and began moving from behind the moon toward the alien fleet. They used stealth technology based on human radar absorption principles, making them nearly invisible to alien sensors designed to detect energy signatures. The Zephyrian fleet was positioned in high orbit around Earth, confident in their superiority. Their ships were massive and powerful, designed to intimidate primitive species into surrender. They had energy shields that could stop any known weapon, and their hulls were made from materials stronger than diamond. But they had never faced kinetic weapons accelerated to relativistic speeds. Stone's flagship opened fire first, launching a projectile the size of a telephone pole at 90% the speed of light. The alien shields were designed to deflect energy beams and particle weapons, but they could not stop a solid object moving with the force of a nuclear bomb. The projectile punched through the Zephyrian flagship like it was made of paper. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the night sky over Earth. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had destroyed an Empire vessel in direct combat. Back on the surface, the alien patrol in Central Park began showing signs of distress. Their breathing became labored, and their movements grew sluggish. The biological weapons were attacking their nervous systems and immune responses simultaneously, causing their own bodies to turn against them. Amy counted 12 aliens in the patrol. Within an hour, all 12 were dead. Their advanced armor and weapons useless against microscopic enemies they could not see or fight. Dr. Ryan Blake monitored reports from resistance cells around the world. The biological weapons were working better than anyone had dared hope. Alien soldiers were collapsing in every major city, their immune systems completely unable to handle Earth's aggressive microorganisms. The Zephyrians in orbit were receiving distress calls from their ground forces, but they could not understand what was happening. Their soldiers reported feeling sick before losing contact entirely. The Empire's medical technology could find no cause for the mysterious illness that was killing their troops. Katie Wells watched the alien fleet through the facility's telescopes as they tried to respond to Stone's attack. More human ships emerged from lunar orbit, firing kinetic projectiles and nuclear missiles at targets that had never faced such primitive but effective weapons. The aliens returned fire with their energy beams, destroying 2 human ships in brilliant explosions. But for every human ship they killed, they lost 3 of their own to weapons they could not defend against. Captain Foster moved her team through the subway tunnels beneath Manhattan, heading for the alien command post they had established in Times Square. The aliens had set up their equipment in the open, protected only by energy shields that they believed made them invulnerable. They had not considered that humans might attack from below, Amy's team carried explosives made from common industrial chemicals, bombs that would have been considered primitive by galactic standards. But the aliens had never encountered improvised explosive devices, had never fought an enemy that used such crude but effective tactics. The explosion that destroyed the alien command post could be heard for miles. The blast sent alien equipment flying through the air and left a crater, where their shields had once protected them. The surviving aliens fled in panic, unable to understand how primitive humans had penetrated their defenses. Admiral Stone watched the battle reports coming in from around the world. Earth's hidden arsenal was working exactly as planned. The aliens had expected to fight an advanced technological civilization using established galactic warfare protocols. Instead, they found themselves fighting a species that used biological weapons, kinetic projectiles, improvised explosives, and tactics that had been considered obsolete for millions of years. The galaxy's apex predators were learning that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one that fought dirty. Captain Ben Turner gripped the controls of his assault ship as it emerged from behind Luna Base, leading the second wave of Earth's counterattack. His ship was called the New Frontier, and it carried enough firepower to level a city. The alien fleet was in chaos, their perfect formations broken by the unexpected human assault that had already destroyed 20 of their vessels. The Zephyrian flagship Great Unity was trying to reorganize its remaining ships when Ben's squadron struck from 3 different angles. The aliens had never fought an enemy that refused to follow established battle tactics, and their confusion was evident in their scattered response patterns. Ben activated his ship's nuclear arsenal, launching a spread of missiles that moved too fast for the alien point defense systems to track. Each missile carried a warhead that had been modified with alien technology, making them far more destructive than anything Earth had possessed before the war began. The explosions lit up space as the missiles found their targets. 3 more alien ships disappeared in balls of fire, their energy shields useless against weapons that delivered raw kinetic force instead of directed energy beams. Major Alex Gray crouched in the ruins of downtown Los Angeles, watching alien reinforcements land in the city center. The aliens had learned to avoid the biological weapons by wearing sealed environmental suits, but this created new problems for them that they had not anticipated. The heavy suits made them slow and clumsy, perfect targets for human snipers hiding in the destroyed buildings. Alex signaled to his team, and 30 rifles opened fire simultaneously from concealed positions throughout the city. The alien soldiers fell one by one as bullets punched through their suit seals and helmet visors. Their advanced armor could stop energy weapons but had not been designed to handle high-velocity projectiles fired from primitive human firearms. Alex smiled grimly as he watched the aliens retreat toward their landing ships. Humanity was teaching the galaxy's greatest military force that sometimes the oldest weapons were the most effective ones. Dr. Lisa Morgan crawled through the ventilation system of the Great Unity, following the route she had memorized during her 3 months aboard the alien flagship. She had survived the execution of the human delegation by hiding in the ship's waste disposal area, a place the aliens never checked because their technology eliminated most biological waste automatically. Now she carried a datapad containing the most dangerous weapon in Earth's arsenal, a computer virus created by genius hacker Tony Chen. The virus was designed to spread through alien computer networks like a biological plague, causing system failures and communication breakdowns throughout their fleet. Lisa reached the ship's central computer core, a room filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with alien data streams. She connected her pad to the main interface and began uploading the virus, praying that the alien security systems would not detect her presence. The upload completed just as alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Lisa ran for the nearest escape pod, knowing that her mission was complete even if she did not survive to see the results. The virus spread through the Zephyrian network faster than their technicians could respond. Ship after ship began experiencing critical system failures as their computers turned against them. Navigation systems failed, weapons stopped firing, and communication between vessels became impossible. Admiral Stone watched the chaos from his command center as the alien fleet began to disintegrate. Some ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed, while others drifted helplessly as their engines shut down. The mighty Galactic Empire fleet was being destroyed by a simple computer program written by a human teenager. High Chancellor Vextar screamed orders from the bridge of his crippled flagship, but his commands could not reach his scattered forces. The humans had turned the galaxy's most advanced communication system into a weapon that destroyed itself from within. Captain Amy Foster led her resistance team through the sewers beneath Washington, D.C., heading for the alien command bunker that had been established in the ruins of the Pentagon. The aliens had chosen the location because they thought it would demoralize human forces, but they had underestimated humanity's capacity for symbolic revenge. The bunker was protected by energy shields and automated defense systems, but Amy's team carried weapons that the aliens had never encountered. They used thermite charges to melt through the shield generators and smoke grenades to confuse the automated targeting systems. The assault on the bunker was swift and brutal. Human soldiers poured through the breaches in the alien defenses, using close combat weapons that rendered the aliens' energy barriers useless. Within minutes, the command center was in human hands. Ben Turner's squadron regrouped for another attack run on the alien fleet. His ship had taken damage from enemy fire, but the New Frontier was still fighting. He counted 43 alien ships remaining out of the original 200, and half of those were crippled by system failures. The battle was turning into a rout as more human ships arrived from hidden bases around the solar system. Earth's secret fleet had grown to over 60 vessels, each one carrying weapons and tactics that the Galactic Empire had never faced before. The Zephyrians tried to adapt their battle formations to counter the human assault, but their rigid military training worked against them. They had spent millions of years fighting enemies that used similar technologies and tactics, and they could not adjust to humanity's chaotic approach to warfare. Major Gray coordinated with resistance cells in 50 major cities as the alien ground forces collapsed. The biological weapons continued to take their toll despite the environmental suits, and human guerrilla fighters struck from hiding places that the aliens never thought to check. In Tokyo, human fighters used the subway system to move unseen beneath alien positions. In London, snipers fired from church bell towers that the aliens had ignored as primitive structures. In Moscow, resistance fighters used the city's underground bunkers to launch surprise attacks that appeared to come from nowhere. The aliens had conquered thousands of worlds using overwhelming technological superiority, but they had never fought a species that turned every disadvantage into a weapon. Earth's primitive infrastructure became a maze that trapped alien forces, while humanity's biological diversity made their very presence deadly to invading troops. Dr. Lisa Morgan's escape pod was recovered by a human patrol ship, and she was rushed to a medical facility for treatment. Her mission had been a complete success, as the virus continued to spread through alien systems across the galaxy. Zephyrian colonies were losing contact with each other as their communication networks failed. Admiral Stone ordered the final phase of the space battle to begin. Human ships surrounded the remaining alien vessels, using their superior maneuverability to avoid return fire, while pounding the enemy with kinetic weapons and nuclear missiles. The Great Unity, pride of the Zephyrian fleet, exploded in a massive fireball that could be seen from Earth's surface. High Chancellor Vexitar died screaming as his flagship was torn apart by human weapons he had dismissed as primitive and worthless. The last alien ships began trying to escape the solar system, but Stone's forces had surrounded them completely. One by one, the surviving Zephyrian vessels were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. Captain Foster stood in the ruins of the Pentagon, looking up at the night sky where explosions marked the end of the alien fleet. The resistance fighters around her cheered as they watched humanity's greatest enemy burn in the darkness above. Earth had won the first battle, but Amy knew this was only the beginning. The Galactic Empire controlled 40,000 worlds, and they would not ignore the destruction of their fleet. Humanity had proven that they could defend their home, but now they faced an even greater challenge. The war was just starting. 6 months after the fall of Zephyra Prime, Admiral Chris Stone stood on the bridge of his new flagship as it approached the ruins of what had once been the galaxy's greatest city. The capital world of the Empire was now a barren wasteland, where nothing moved except the wind across empty streets. The biological weapons had done their work with terrifying efficiency. The human fleet had grown to over 300 ships as Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to build vessels for the expanding war. Each new ship carried weapons and technologies that combined human creativity with alien science, creating instruments of destruction that the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Jake Harrison walked through the abandoned halls of the Great Palace on Zephyra Prime, where emperors had ruled 40,000 worlds for millions of years. Now the palace served as headquarters for the Human Colonial Administration, the organization that would govern Earth's new galactic empire. The transformation had been swift and brutal. As the biological weapons spread through Zephyrian trade routes and communication networks, world after world fell silent. The Empire's own transportation system had become the delivery method for humanity's microscopic army, carrying death to every corner of their civilization. Dr. Ryan Blake worked in his new laboratory on the former capital world, cataloging the vast knowledge contained in the Empire's central library. The aliens had accumulated scientific and cultural information from thousands of species over millions of years, and Blake was determined to preserve what humanity could use while discarding the rest. He found records of species that had been destroyed by the Empire, entire civilizations wiped out because they showed too much independence or creativity. The Zephyrians had been galactic exterminators, not the peaceful guardians they claimed to be. Humanity's revenge had been justice for billions of innocent beings. Captain Sue Miller commanded a fleet of colony ships that followed in the wake of the biological weapons, carrying human settlers to claim the empty worlds. Earth's population was expanding across the galaxy at a rate that would have been impossible without the complete elimination of existing inhabitants. The first human colony on Kepler Prime was established in the ruins of an alien city that had housed 50 million beings just months before. The new colonists worked to clear away the remains while building structures designed for human needs and human biology. Engineer Pete Davis had become Earth's Minister of Galactic Communications, overseeing the network that now served human interests instead of alien ones. His computer viruses had spread so completely through the Empire's systems that humans controlled everything from trade routes to weather satellites on distant worlds. The galactic economy collapsed as human forces seized control of mining operations, manufacturing centers, and agricultural worlds. Species that had depended on trade with the Empire found themselves cut off from resources and technology, forcing them to accept human protection or face extinction. President Helen Carter announced the formation of the Terran Republic, a new galactic government based on human values and human leadership. The Republic would offer membership to any species willing to accept Earth's authority and contribute to humanity's expansion across the stars. The first species to request membership were the Kelvani, a race of peaceful traders who had been oppressed by the Zephyrian Empire for thousands of years. Their homeworld had been spared from the biological weapons because they had never participated in the attack on Mars, and they offered to serve as intermediaries with other surviving species. Dr. Claire Adams established medical centers on former Empire worlds to treat the survivors of humanity's biological campaign. The treatments were expensive and required ongoing human supervision, creating a system of dependency that ensured alien loyalty to Earth's new government. Some species tried to resist human expansion, forming alliances to fight against what they saw as a new form of galactic tyranny. These resistance movements discovered that opposing humanity was far more dangerous than opposing the old empire had ever been. Admiral Stone led punitive expeditions against rebel worlds, using tactics that made the Zephyrians look merciful by comparison. Entire star systems were sterilized using enhanced biological weapons that killed every living thing larger than bacteria, leaving empty planets for human colonization. The Andromedans attempted to organize a coalition of species to drive humanity back to Earth, but their fleets were destroyed before they could coordinate their attacks. Human intelligence networks had infiltrated every remaining government in the galaxy, providing advance warning of any hostile actions. Captain Harrison supervised the construction of Earth's new capital on Zephyra Prime, a massive city built from materials harvested from a dozen conquered worlds. The architecture combined human design principles with alien construction techniques, creating structures that were both beautiful and intimidating. The new capital served as the center of human power in the galaxy, where decisions were made that affected billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Representatives from allied species came to petition for resources, protection, and permission to expand their own territories under human oversight. Katie Wells had been promoted to Director of Xenobiological Research, overseeing projects that created new weapons and tools for humanity's galactic empire. Her laboratories produced biological agents tailored to specific threats, ensuring that no alien species could develop immunity to Earth's microscopic arsenal. The Terran Republic established the Galactic Protection Protocol, a system of laws that prohibited warfare, genocide, and oppression among member species. Any violation of the protocol resulted in immediate biological warfare against the offending civilization, followed by human occupation and colonization of their worlds. Former Empire worlds were divided into categories based on their usefulness to humanity. Garden worlds with suitable climates became human colonies, while resource-rich planets were strip-mined to fuel Earth's expanding industrial base. Worlds with surviving alien populations became protectorates under human supervision. Dr. Blake discovered that the galaxy contained several primitive species that were developing space travel technology. Following the example set by the Zephyrians, these civilizations might have become future threats to human expansion. The Terran Republic chose a different approach. Instead of destroying these species, humanity began uplifting them by sharing selected technologies and biological immunity treatments. These client species became grateful allies who provided resources and soldiers for human expansion while remaining completely dependent on Earth's support. The transformation of the galaxy was completed within 5 years of the Mars massacre. Humanity had grown from a single-planet species facing extinction to the rulers of 40,000 worlds spanning multiple galactic arms. The speed of the expansion was unprecedented in galactic history. President Carter signed the final settlement treaty, officially ending the war that had begun with the destruction of Mars. The treaty established Earth's permanent dominion over the galaxy and created the legal framework for humanity's 1,000-year expansion plan. The treaty also established the Terran Protocol, a galactic law that prohibited any species from developing weapons or technologies that could threaten human supremacy. Violation of the protocol was punishable by immediate extinction, enforced by biological weapons that could destroy entire worlds. Captain Miller stood on the observation deck of her ship as it patrolled the outer rim of the galaxy, watching for signs of new civilizations that might challenge human authority. Her vessel carried enough biological weapons to sterilize 100 worlds, ensuring that humanity's enemies would never have the chance to organize effective resistance. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, and Earth intended to keep it that way forever. The species that had slaughtered 10 billion humans on live broadcast had learned that some acts of evil created enemies who would never forget and never forgive. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would last until the stars themselves grew cold. President Helen Carter stood before the United Earth Assembly, her face grim as she addressed the representatives of every nation on the planet. The alien fleet above Earth was destroyed, but intelligence reports showed that the Zephyrian Empire was preparing a massive retaliation force. Thousands of ships were moving toward Earth from across the galaxy, and they would arrive within 6 months. Carter raised her hand for silence as the assembly erupted in worried voices. She had made a decision that would either save humanity or doom them all to extinction. Earth would not wait for the aliens to return with overwhelming force. Instead, humanity would take the war to the heart of the Empire itself. Commander Jake Harrison had somehow survived the destruction of his escape pod and spent weeks recovering in a military hospital. Now he stood in the briefing room of Earth's largest shipyard, looking at the most ambitious military project in human history. 50 warships hung in construction bays, each one larger and more dangerous than anything humanity had ever built. The ships combined alien technology captured from the destroyed fleet with human engineering and weapons systems. They looked like predators made of metal and energy, designed for one purpose only. These ships would carry Earth's counterattack to Zephyra Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Empire. Captain Sue Miller walked through the corridors of her new command, a science vessel called the Retribution. Her ship carried the most terrifying weapon in Earth's arsenal, a modified version of the alien death ray that had destroyed Mars. But this weapon had been changed in ways that would have horrified even its original creators. Instead of simply destroying matter, the human version of the death ray accelerated the evolution of Earth's most aggressive microorganisms and spread them into planetary atmospheres. Any world struck by this weapon would become a breeding ground for diseases that no galactic species could survive. Sue checked the sealed biological containers in her ship's laboratory. Each one contained bacteria and viruses that had been modified to target specific alien genetic markers. The weapon would turn entire planets into death traps for any species except humans, who carried natural immunity to Earth's biological agents. The human fleet launched from Earth's orbital shipyards on a cold morning in December. Jake Harrison commanded the flagship Vengeance, leading 50 warships on humanity's first interstellar military campaign. They used captured alien faster-than-light drives to cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. The journey to Zephyra Prime gave the human crews time to prepare for the greatest battle in their species' history. They practiced attack formations that no galactic military had ever seen, combining traditional space combat with biological warfare and psychological operations designed to break alien morale. Engineer Pete Davis worked in the computer center of the Vengeance, preparing the most advanced computer virus ever created. This program was designed to infiltrate the orbital defense grid around Zephyra Prime and turn the aliens' own weapons against them. The virus would spread through their network like a plague, causing chaos and destruction throughout their capital system. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyra system and immediately faced the largest military force ever assembled by the Galactic Empire. 2,000 alien warships waited in perfect formation around their home world, confident that no primitive species could threaten the heart of their civilization. Admiral Stone, who had followed the fleet in his flagship, opened communications with the enemy. His message was simple and direct. Humanity demanded the complete surrender of the Zephyrian Empire and the evacuation of all alien military forces from conquered worlds. If the aliens refused, Earth would demonstrate what happened to species that committed genocide against human colonies. The Zephyrian response came in the form of energy beams that lit up space as they struck the human fleet. 3 Earth ships exploded immediately, their crews dying in the first seconds of the battle. But the remaining human vessels scattered in patterns that confused the alien targeting systems, refusing to fight according to established galactic warfare protocols. Jake Harrison ordered the Vengeance to begin the first phase of Operation Total Victory. His ship launched a spread of kinetic projectiles at the alien formation while releasing clouds of microscopic probes that would infiltrate enemy vessels and begin spreading biological agents through their life support systems. The alien fleet tried to respond with conventional energy weapon attacks, but the human ships moved in unpredictable patterns that made accurate targeting impossible. Some human vessels flew directly toward alien ships before changing course at the last second, while others used the gravity of nearby moons to slingshot around obstacles. Captain Miller positioned the Retribution behind a large asteroid and began charging her ship's biological death ray. The weapon would take several minutes to reach full power, but once activated it would doom every living thing on Zephyra Prime to a slow and horrible death. Pete Davis successfully infiltrated the alien defense network, uploading his virus into their central command systems. Within minutes, orbital defense platforms began firing on their own ships as the virus spread through their targeting computers. The aliens watched in horror as their own weapons turned against them. Dr. Claire Adams worked in the medical bay of the science ship Discovery, preparing the final component of Earth's biological warfare arsenal. She had created targeted plagues that would affect specific alien species based on their genetic structure. Each plague was designed to spread rapidly through alien populations while remaining harmless to humans. The battle around Zephyra Prime became a slaughter as human tactics overwhelmed alien defenses. Ships that had conquered thousands of worlds found themselves helpless against enemies that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Human vessels used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and coordinated swarm tactics that broke alien formations. Jake watched the alien flagship Great Dominion try to rally the scattered enemy forces. He ordered a concentrated attack on the vessel, sending 20 human ships in a coordinated assault that overwhelmed its shields and armor. The explosion of the alien command ship sent shockwaves through the remaining enemy fleet. Sue Miller fired the biological death ray at Zephyra Prime, sending a beam of weaponized evolution toward the planet's surface. The weapon struck the northern continent and immediately began its work, seeding the atmosphere with organisms that would multiply and spread across the entire world within days. The Zephyrians on the planet's surface watched in terror as strange clouds began forming in their skies. They did not yet understand that these clouds contained their doom, microscopic predators that would turn their own world against them. Pete's virus had spread through the entire orbital defense network, causing explosions and system failures throughout the alien infrastructure. Space elevators collapsed, orbital habitats lost life support, and communication satellites went silent as Earth's digital plague consumed everything it touched. Admiral Stone coordinated the final assault on the remaining alien ships. The human fleet had lost 15 vessels, but they had destroyed over half of the Empire's capital defense force. The survivors were fleeing in panic, their perfect formations shattered by an enemy they could not understand or defeat. The planet below began showing signs of biological contamination as Claire's targeted plagues started their work. Alien cities went dark as their populations succumbed to diseases that spread faster than any medical response could contain. The capital of the Galactic Empire was dying, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Jake Harrison opened a channel to broadcast throughout the Zephyr system. His message would be heard on every world controlled by the Empire, carried by their own communication networks that were now under human control. He spoke with the voice of humanity's righteous anger. Earth had come to collect the debt owed for 10 billion human lives.